I'm very excited to have on tonight is Patrick Sporer. And let me get you his bio. He is a precog. He has been a precognitive clairvoyant dreamer since he was a child. This talent may have been triggered by a head or neck accident. He has been recording his dreams and studying them for over 35 years. He has discovered that the dreams he has provide previews of future events. Since 2007, 9 years ago, he has been posting dreams and coincidence repetition phenomenon to his dream cognition experiment. Log with date and time before those lotto events occur. This has resulted in stunning news and Florida Lotto Jackpot combos results with consistency. His blog address is patrickscott.blogspot.com, and he served in the U.S. Army. He has been featured on Fox News. He has also appeared on ESPN and Good Morning America, as well as featured in national magazines and local news publications. He was involved in the fitness industry where he competed as a national-level bodybuilder, owned his own bodybuilding gym, promoted events, was a national-level physique judge and entertainer. He worked a professional intuitive reader, some might call psychic, for 20 years. He's also a certified hypnotist and was an aspiring screenwriter. And he's going to talk about dreams, signs, symbols, and synchronicity, and how these subjective tools foreshadow our future and future world events, including winning lotto jackpot numbers. This is going to be an awesome show, you guys. So please welcome Patrick to the show tonight. Hello, Patrick.
How are you, Lou?
I'm wonderful. It's a pleasure to have you on and an honor. I hear wonderful things about you, and I'm just very happy to have you on tonight. So welcome.
Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I'd like to welcome all of your guests to the show. I hope they find it interesting.
I'm sure they will.
I enjoy chatting about it. The history is interesting when this stuff started, as you read in the bio there. I was living in Colorado Springs. My father was in the Air Force, and he worked at Cheyenne Mountain. He was a NORAD, and we lived off the base. And in Colorado Springs during that time, a lot of people decorated their yards with these large boulders. And my brother and a few other friends were playing, cowboy and Indians and Army. And we would take turns climbing on this boulder and pretend like we would do like stuntman work, pretending like we were going to get shot and then fall. And, of course, I wanted to win. So I took this very nice dive off this boulder and hit head first. And at the same time, I blacked out. And at the time, as young as I was, I knew something was wrong with my neck. I could feel a pop. And for a brief moment, I seemed to be out. And then I remember my brother and the other kids around me were saying, "Oh, that was great. That was the best one." Boom, boom, boom. And I finally came to. And I remember my brother saying something to me like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." But I've had this issue with my neck still to this day. And it wasn't until I was in the Army that an X-ray revealed that it had healed on its own. So obviously I did do something. But it was a short time after that I can recall that I started having all of these very strong dreams. And of course, you have to understand, when you're a young kid, and I'm sure you do, I just kind of thought that maybe everybody was having these, type of things happen. And I would only share them with my mother. And of course, she would tell me to be very careful who I talked to back then about these kind of things, because she didn't want people to think I was a little off. Mm-hmm. And of course, she didn't want, to affect my dad's military career in any way. Although my father was not a hardcore military. He was a World War II bomber pilot. He fought in World War II, flew 72 missions. He was not the kind of dad who was like a tyrant or anything. He was a great father. Yeah, my best friend in the world. Yeah, and so this is sort of the history. And it wasn't long after that I had what I would call a real paranormal experience in my life. And we had lived in two homes there. We lived in one on Morningstar Drive. That was the first one, and then we moved to Vega Drive. Again, in Colorado Springs, which Tesla did a lot of work there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you've done history on him. I heard you talking about it on the Space Boy show. Yeah. And the house that we lived in had wood floors, the second house. And my mother and I were the only ones home this day. And my mother was just a great mom. She, first thing in the morning, she gets up, she starts cleaning cleaning the house and everything else, and I can hear her. She comes in and she wakes me up, and I remember, half asleep, and then she went back in the living room, and I could hear the vacuum cleaner come on. And then suddenly, I'm looking down at the floorboards of the wood floors, and there's this mist, a swirling mist coming up through the floorboard. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm going, oh no, it's smoke. So I was yelling at my mom, hey Mom, there's smoke coming up through the floor, but she had the vacuum cleaner on. I didn't run out there. Then all of a sudden, before I could get words out of my mouth, this being, this little short Yoda-like being, appeared before me, and it was short, cherub-looking, white skin, pure white skin, with bluish eyes, almost like crystal. I don't remember a mouth, and it had a small nose, and it had long white, I'm talking white hair streaming out of this hood, and it was wearing sort of like what you would think like Yoda or a monk outfit would be. Mm-hmm. And suddenly I stood up in the middle of my bed, and I got real quiet, and then my head started itching, and I started laughing, and I said, oh my gosh, what is that? And then I could hear this thing communicating with me. And it was as real could be. Mm-hmm. I'm talking incredibly real. And I've told some other people the story, and I said, hey, look, you know me, I don't make this stuff up, Mm-hmm. So, this thing bantered back and forth with me for a little bit, and it was comical looking, but it more or less was communicating to me that I would be having these experiences in a nutshell. And then suddenly, because I was laughing at this thing, because every time it communicated with me, my head would start itching or tickling me is more of a better way to put it. Mm-hmm. And then my mom turned the vacuum, and she said, Patrick, who are you talking to in there? What's so funny? So I could see the shadow, from the morning sun. I could see her shadow coming down the hallway, and this little being looked and saw the shadow too, and then it turned to me, and it put a finger. It only had like 3 fingers on each hand, and it kind of put a finger to its mouth, and basically disappeared right into the floorboard again, just the way it came up. And of course, because my dreams are so vivid and real, but I don't believe this was a dream. Mm-hmm. Because when my mother walked in the room, I'm standing up in the bed and I'm looking at the floorboard, and I don't really tell her about it. I don't tell anybody about it for years and years and years and years. Mm-hmm. It just didn't seem like it was important to talk about. And it's not like this being told me to be quiet about it or anything. It didn't really say that. So that is the only other time I can tell you that I've had what I can call a paranormal experience. And again, it occurred within a certain time frame after this accident. Mm-hmm. So I really don't know what to make of that. I just remember that story for years and years and years and years. And this was way back, a long time ago.
Right. What year do you think that was?
That was in the, I was 4 or 5 years old, so it was probably the early 60s. It wasn't long after JFK. It wasn't long after JFK became president. Mm-hmm. And that's when I told my mother about JFK before we moved to the Philippines. And I was watching him on television, and I remember telling my mom, I said, hey, Mom, somebody's going to shoot him. And she said, don't ever say that again. She said, don't ever say that again. Don't say that to anybody in the neighborhood. Don't ever say that again. And then when we were in the Philippines, she came and woke me up on November, the international date line. I don't know, because I know it was daytime there. It had already happened, so it was probably the 23rd. It happened on the 22nd, correct? Mm-hmm. And she woke me up, and she said, you were right. And I went, huh? And she said, the president was just shot and killed. Now, of course, again, I could say that. I have no proof. I have no physical evidence. My mother's dead. I have no way to prove that conversation actually took place. So, as I've gone through life, one of the biggest problems that a lot of us have in this psychic realm or supernatural world, paranormal world, is that it's difficult to get physical evidence to a lot of these circumstances out there. Mm-hmm. And that is what brought me to finding a way to put this stuff on a blog, these experiences that I've had, the dreams, etc., with date and time in advance, so that there is physical evidence with a consistency. And thank goodness the internet came along that allowed me to do that. I've started and stopped books. I just not sure how I want to write this story. So I may down the road eventually get to that. But and then I've had this fascinating world where I've had all these synchronicities. I mean, incredible dreams and things happening after the dreams. I mean, I have what you call freak luck, and people have noted that throughout my life because I should have probably been dead several times. Some of the things that happened to me, and I didn't even get a scratch on me in some of these circumstances. But in other circumstances, other people probably would have been killed. So there's something, this is where I know there's a destiny pattern that we have. And I don't believe that I could pick up on future events unless there was something already sort of solid out there.
Right.
And I do have people that will say from time to time, they say, well, you should pick up on a lot of, I live a Zen type life, Solaris. I have what I call reality thinking, which is not really positive or negative thinking. It's looking at the world for the way it is and realizing that you can look at something as being negative and then it can be positive, or you can look at something positive and it could turn out to be negative. And I've seen that happen with so many people in my life that have had dreams and visions about their what they thought their reality was. So, and with these events, as quick as some of these things happen, I mean, some of these things don't take long after I post a dream. And these lotto numbers, as you've read some of the information I've probably sent to you, some of these things come in within hours.
Right. That's fantastic. That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. And you had mentioned when I discovered this. Now, before the Fox interview, I had not discovered the connection to the dreams and the lotto. I was winning strictly on intuition and with coincidence repetition phenomena, as I've coined it, because I didn't know what else to call it, so I sort of just gave it its own name. And I make sure that I don't go to other sites where there are predictions made or where other people claim things, because I don't want my subconscious. Through time, I've realized that I've got to keep my subconscious clear and clean, and not get too influenced by maybe what someone else says or what someone else thinks. Right. So I make a discipline of not doing that, because I wouldn't want anybody to say, well, you read that on this site, I saw that, et cetera, because as we talked before the show, it can get very competitive in this so-called metaphysical, spiritual world we live in. Yeah. Right. But do you have a question there?
No, I was gonna ask the process of being a precog. So let's give the lotto, for example, the lotto. How do you go about acquiring this data?
Okay. Well, again, when I discovered it, I was, as you've been on your path, you probably make new little discoveries every day. And I do with this all the time. That's what makes it so fascinating. What happened is that I was noticing that some of the posts I was making were not turning into anything. And I said, well, surely, because of my track record and the consistency and the speed that some of these things happen, I started looking back at some of them that weren't, and I said, I got this wild idea, so I'm going to check these against the Florida Lotto, because I live in Florida. So now I had a dream about George Clooney. And before we go any further, Solaris, I just want to mention that anything I mentioned during your show, just like this as an example, could very well, I've discovered, be a way the subconscious is trying to get information out.
Okay.
So I'm jotting down George Clooney, and I'm jotting down his birthday as we speak, so that we have evidence on your show if anything should be interesting happen to George Clooney or connected to the lotto. And today is June 12th. Are you in Central?
I'm actually in the Rocky Mountains. It's still the 11th here, but on Eastern time, yes, it's already the 12th.
Okay, so we'll say June 11th, 2016, June 12th, 2016, that this show is taking place. And this is archived, correct?
Yes, it is.
Oh, perfect. That's even better. Okay, so we'll use that one, because I took that one dream, and the dream I had of him is he was in Hawaii, and he was in this little tiki hut type place, and he looked like he was having a good time in the dream. So I said, well, and I didn't realize at the time that he was filming The Descendants. or had been filming The Descendants or something like that, which I think took place in Hawaii or somewhere around there. So anyway, I said, okay, let me check his birthday, and his birthday is May 6th, which is 506. So I went in and I said, wow, look at that. I said, 506 came in right here, really close to where I had this dream. And that was the trigger. Right there, I started saying, And then I started looking back at some of the other celebrity dreams I had and people I knew, and I started seeing a correlation as I went back through the Lotto archives, which they really have a nice archives compared to other state lottos. And so I could go back and I could trace my steps, and I sort of did reverse engineering, and I started saying, okay, here's what I'm going to do, because I was in business for many, many years, so everything's a business to me. I conduct my life like a business if I get in a new venture. So I said, I talked to my accountant, and I said, look, I'm going to do this project. And I said, it has to do with the Lotto. And he coached me. He said, well, yeah, you can do that. He said, because you can, if you have losses, you can write them off against your winnings. So are you aware of that?
No.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, you can. In the Lotto.
Nice.
I don't know about. I'm sure you could probably do it with gambling too. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he told me just keep track. So I was very diligent about keeping track. I set a budget that I felt I could live with, and I proceeded to implement this plan. But as I went along, I was doing very good consistently. I won't go into the amounts of money I won. That's not the important issue here. But I did quite well, and I mean, I'm not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, because we're talking about the cash 3 and play 4. We're not talking about the pie in the sky, big games, which usually are won on quick picks. 85% of those are anyway, in my the study, the research that I did. I've done a lot of research on the Lotto. I didn't intend to do that. It was just sort of a byproduct of all this other study. So what I started realizing is it wasn't only the birthday that was connected, but it was also the year of birth. And then I started realizing the correlation between the birthday that just passed and the birthday of a year back. So I started noticing that I could go 2 years back and plus include the actual birthday and the birth year. Is that coming out clear?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that understood? Okay, good. I want to make sure I'm explaining it well. So then I started looking at these dreams, some of these dreams differently, and I said, well, wait a minute, now some of these are Lotto and some of these are turning into news stories. But when I started connecting with these Lotto numbers, I just said, this is like, somebody would write in a screenplay, because I wrote screenplays for a long time. I said, this is just unreal. Mm-hmm. And then not only that, but the dreams that I had would start correlating in real time, and the number that I might see in a dream would suddenly start repeating. And these numbers would start repeating, and then this helped me with news stories, because I started realizing that the correlation, when I start seeing a higher frequency of these things, I heard you talk about frequencies in the last show, mm-hmm. but when I say frequency, I mean I'm not trying to see these things, Solaris. It's like something is guiding me to these things. Mm-hmm. And if you read any of those coincidence repetition phenomena, then you'll see did you read the 555 one?
Yeah, that's wild.
Oh, wild. And then you saw the big, huge news story the other day.
Mm-hmm. Right, and we can go into some of those details. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this is the same way it works with the Lotto. And sometimes it can be both. It can be a headline news story and Lotto. So I started noticing that, wow, here's two things happening. Does it go even further than that? And again, it's like your experience. This thing goes in layers, and sometimes it's difficult when you're trying to explain it to people for them to grasp what I mean by that. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at. I have my boards here in just the last couple of days, and I wanted to go over these numbers. Now, this is the Florida Lotto, but I have had other people tell me that these numbers are coming in other states, but mm-hmm. I do not have the time to scan through these other state lottos. And what I do now is I do what I call a fake play. And I'll give you an example. Just the last, how is your movie knowledge? Do you know who Martin Balsam is?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, I posted the dream of him. It was just a few days ago. And his birthday is November 4th. Mm-hmm. All right? So what I do is I said, well, I'll look at all his numbers, but I want to look at this November 4th, which is what? 114, actually, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I did is I'll research a number like that. This is just a basic example. There's a lot more to it, but I'll give you this. And I started noticing, I looked at that and I said, well, wait a minute. Those 3 digits have come in 10 times on the evening game. So I said, those numbers are going to hit on the midday game soon. I knew it. I could feel it in my solar plexus. And the more I do this, I start getting these little ticks in myself, and I go, oh, this is going to come in. So on my fake play, I went ahead and put it down as a combo on the midday game. That means it can come in, when you play it in a combo, that means it can come in any combination.
Mm-hmm.
And you still win a nice piece. So in other words, for $1.50, you can win $250. Not a bad return on your investment, right?
Right.
Yeah. Now, what I would normally do when I was playing, I would take that and I would play that 20 times. You see?
Mm-hmm.
That would turn into like, $3,000 to $5,000, even up to $10,000 sometimes.
Right.
That you could win, just win in an afternoon. Now, my theory was that you can win like that on a consistent basis per month. And I used to tell people when I was telling them about this, I said, look, don't worry about those giant jackpots. I said, it's great. Take your quick pick. I do the same thing. But I said, if I could teach you how to win an extra $2,000 a month, would you be interested? Of course. Mm-hmm. Everybody said, sure. So this is what I was saying. This isn't for somebody to be greedy. This is a science of sort. So anyway, that Martin Balsam dream was on June 8th. Those numbers hit today on the midday game, 3 days later.
Wow.
Now, that came through a dream about an old school actor that most people probably don't even remember.
Yeah, he was in, what was it, the Norman Bates movie, right?
He was. Yes, he was. He was in Psycho. Mm-hmm. He's been in so many movies. But you have to remember, I'm a movie buff too, from the time I was a little kid. So all this stuff is recorded in the subconscious, or what I call it my dreamweaver when I'm asleep. I call it my inner guide when I'm awake. It's all the same thing. It's the subconscious. Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is that all of these memories are there, and the subconscious is communicating this to me in this manner. Now, the problem is most people, when I had my gym or something, they say, hey, you talk about dreams all the time. Let me tell you about this dream. I'll go, okay, that's fine. I said, but I don't do dream interpretation because I said, that's not my thing. I said, what I could teach you to do is you need to learn how your subconscious is communicating to you, because it's going to be different. Mm-hmm. In other words, these dream encyclopedia books and dream dictionary books don't work for me. Mm-hmm. I had developed my own legend of symbols and ideas and everything else. And then through trial and error and reverse engineering, you might say, I've learned how these things are going to come in. So I on my fake play, I had that. So that would have been, just $250, no big deal, right? Mm-hmm. So, so now we move towards today. Today, I was looking at the dream of this guy that I knew from bodybuilding. He was a judge and a promoter. And I had a dream about him and 4 other people from that dream. Now, you're going to find this interesting, Solaris. I know you will. If nobody else does, I know you will. But so there were 4 people that all showed up. A former girlfriend of mine who when she was with me, she trained for. Are you familiar with the fitness and figure and all that?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Well, these are the events I promoted for 35 years. Bodybuilding, nice. All those. And I worked with a lot of people. I have an eye for talent, people with good sim, as I call it, or symmetry. But all of these people were judges or people I met as competitors, etc. So all 4 of them were clustered in this dream. Now, as I call it, the dreamweaver will exaggerate a dream or dramatize a dream to make sure I pay attention. That does not mean that what I see happening in that dream is going to happen in reality. And I have to break all the fragments down. So since we're talking lotto and not the other things that were within that dream, I look at the triggers. Well, that all those people occurred on the same day as the Martin Balsam dream. That was June 8th. Okay? Are you following me there?
Right.
You got me? Okay, great. So my former girlfriend had a number come in within hours after that dream, a play 4 number. All right, so that tells me in other words, if I sit back and wait and I was playing, I would go, okay, I didn't play her number, but now I'm going to watch the other three people that were in that same sequence. Because I know from experience that those numbers are going to start kicking in. Now, I have an additional odds maker here. See, what I discovered by accident was that numbers that hit last June start hitting in this June again. I call those echo jackpots.
Wow.
I've coined my own. Well, this is something I discovered a few years back, and I've been trying to tell other players about this, but they're not grasping what I'm saying. I go in these little seminars sometimes when I'm in these stores and people gather around me, because they saw the consistency of winning, and of course the people that were selling me the tickets say, hey, when that guy comes in, you need to look at his numbers because he's. And I've many times tipped the people selling me. I would just a ticket. I'd give them $1 ticket. And I said, hey, these numbers are going to come in tonight.
Nice.
Solaris, some of them would get $300.
Oh, that's awesome. That's wonderful.
You see that? Well, because that's all going to come back to me anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then they loved me. They take care of me, right away. Oh yeah, he's coming in. They'd even kind of fight over you. Hey, I want to wait on him today. I said, hey, you can all have the number here. I said, there's plenty to go around. Don't worry about it. So anyway, so when these numbers trigger one another, well, this is what happened today. So on my fake play today, I looked at this one judge, and I said, wait a minute, these 3 digits came in last June. And it was 722. Well, they came in as a combination of 722. We'll leave it at that. So I said, wait a minute, I'm going to do a history. So I go in and I research how these numbers hit last June. And I said, wow, it's due in the evening. Because I said, look, it's already hit a couple of times midday. So now this is where the scientific part comes in from the intuitive part. You have to merge these two things together. Mm-hmm. So I go, okay, so I'm going to play at 227 on my fake play. I said, I'm going to combo it just like I did the Martin Balsam. Those numbers hit tonight.
Wow.
So now on my fake play, I'm up to $500 for a $3 investment. So you see how it can add up, right? Mm-hmm. So do you think did I explain that well enough?
Oh, you did. And it's really interesting because this is really out of the box of normal programming insofar as what people are used to hearing. But it's fascinating. And the fact that the programs are repeating themselves, that's interesting. And you have to be probably one of the first people that's ever been able to decode this.
Well, as far as I know, I am, because I talked to other people and they're just blown away by it. They said, how did you discover that? I said, I just work this all the time. But I've made even a greater discovery, and I keep making more discoveries, and I believe I will be able to pinpoint the number coming in on the exact day. It may take me a little while. Did I send you the dream about Space Boy by chance today?
I think you did, and I don't know if I got to that one. Let's talk about that. Yeah, I do have it somewhere, but you want to address that?
I don't know if I sent that one to you or not. Well, here's the thing with Solana and Space Boy. I've never met them personally, but in dreams, I have communicated with them, just like you and I are talking right now. Now, that's not uncommon for me. I have these kind of dreams all the time. I'm talking like right now could be a dream, Solaris. I could wake up and go, gosh, I was talking to Solaris on the telephone here. Mm-hmm. That's how real these dreams have been my entire life. Mm-hmm. And yeah, anyway, so the Space Boy dream is interesting because this just shows you a fragmentation dream, as I call it. Now, let's think about this for a brief moment. We had a shooting in Orlando yesterday. Are you familiar with the story that went on?
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, I heard about that.
The Voice, right? Mm-hmm. Now, nobody knew the guy's name. And I didn't think about it till this afternoon after I'd already posted the dream that the guy's name, for some reason, his middle name, they had to bring his middle name up. They called him James. Now, I don't know if Space Boy goes by James. I know his name is Jim, but I'm sure somewhere Jim is usually short for James, right? Correct. Okay. Yeah. Well, in this, and I'm not 100% sure this is the case, but I'm gonna give it to you like it was. Well, in the dream, I was watching Space Boy, and he had a rifle, and he had a scope on the rifle, and it was a white rifle, and it was a .22 caliber. I knew that right away. Now, I'm not a gun advocate. I just knew in the dream it was a .22. I wouldn't know looking at a gun what was this or what was that, even though I was in the Army. I could tell you about the old school weapons from way back then. Mm-hmm. But so anyway, I'm looking at now. This the reason I'm telling this coincides with a dream I had, a nap dream today that happened within 7 minutes of dozing off. I keep timing on the dreams. I'll make sure I know when I go to bed, and then when suddenly I awaken to record the dream, I like to know how much time has elapsed before my dream weaver takes over.
Right.
So anyway, we'll get to that. That was about Jennifer Aniston. So we'll get to that. See how it ties into this and the lotto. This is fascinating. So anyway, this dream I had about Space Boy, he's walking around with this weapon, and I'm thinking to myself, oh God, what is he going to do with that? Now I'm there. I can see him, and he's pacing back and forth, and he looks like he's very upset about something. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to talk him out of this. And basically I talked him out of the weapon. He hands it over to me. And I thought to myself, okay, what was he angry about? What is he going to do? Now, since I have encountered Space Boy and Solana back in February when I was on their show for the first time, and that came about through a synchronicity because I was listening to a show Space Boy was on, and he started talking about David Bowie. And I had posted the David Bowie dream 6 months before David Bowie died.
Mm-hmm.
So I called in that show to share that dream, and then he told me he had a show, and he said, oh, maybe you should come on my show, and that's how we met. So pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. David Bowie brought us together.
Wow.
So yeah, it's fascinating.
Yes, it is.
And so we, even though I've never met them, we've developed a friendship over a course of time. They're a great couple, real nice people.
Yeah.
But here's what started happening. The dreams I was having started coinciding with huge news stories that were happening in the Houston area. So I jotted this down. I put this in my other journal. I have another dream symbol here for Houston, Texas. I have Space Boy and Solana. If something happens, if I have a dream about them, that means something could happen. I'm talking about major news stories. There have been like 5 of them. Every single time I've had dreams of either both of them or him, there has been a major news story. So now I'm thinking, well, maybe this weapon, this rifle, this scope has something to do with somebody that's going to do something in the Houston area. Now, a couple of weeks ago, after I had a dream about him, they had that guy that went crazy and started shooting people, and that was like 2 minutes away from where Space Boy lived. Now, think about that.
Right.
Think about how close that was. Okay. Now, excuse me. Is this making sense what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely it is, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Now, in this dream, when I take the weapon from him, suddenly the scenario shifts, and I'm on this reef or this rock extended out of the water, and there's this gigantic monster shark swimming around, and I can hear somebody yelling to me, hey, you need to get higher up on that rock because this thing can jump up there and grab you. Now, I have this rifle in my hands. I pull out the magazine. I can see the .22 caliber bullets. I put the magazine back in, and I go, oh, well, this is going to be my only saving grace. I got to shoot this shark. Now, Solaris, this shark is like beyond Jaws. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking, okay, so you see how the fragments are?
Mm-hmm. Right.
The rifle, Space Boy, and this shark are not going to have any kind of correlation in reality. Each one of those things it's like in Minority Report. Did you love that movie?
Oh, right. Yes.
I have to watch it every time it comes on because it's how my life is. And the board that Tom Cruise worked on when they would put all the fragments together to form a picture?
Right.
Yeah, so this is kind of how this is. It's kind of reverse engineering. I have to go in there and dissect this dream, and then I have to put each one of these fragments out in front of me, and then that's what I post in the morning because I know I have to get Space Boy's information on there before the midday draw time because those numbers connected to his birthday could hit very quick.
Wow.
Okay, now, so I started studying. I got his card in front of me. Did I leave anything out? Did I
No, but what's
everything?
interesting, I just want to add something real quick. I don't know if you know this or not, but Space Boy has a problem. He's kind of scared of sharks. I don't know if you know that or not.
Oh no, I know he is because
Okay,
I sent him a video. I sent him a video about The Shallows, the new movie coming out with Blake Lively.
Yeah.
That looks like it's going to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But and I love when they have female heroines, real good ones that are believable. The thing is this, that, so I have his birthday information, and he has no qualms about sharing this because he shared it on his show tonight before he went off the air. His birthday is November 18th.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in and I did history on all these potential numbers, which there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I have to include his phone number. See, this is what's more fascinating. I don't know his home address. And I sent that to Solana today, and she didn't send anything back because I just sent it in the subject line. I figured she would get it and send it to me because I want to know if those digits from their home address are potential numbers. Because I discovered that it's not just the birthday numbers, it is also phone numbers and former addresses. And I had one hit today about a friend of mine. It's just incredible.
Wow.
So the subconscious stores all this information, Solaris. You know this. You know this because I heard you talk about it. So this is validating a lot of your own experience, but yours is much higher level than mine. But so now let's flash forward here. So one of those digits is 917. Okay, that hit last November 18th, 2015. All right, I researched. It's come in 5 times on the evening game. I said this is due on the midday game. It doesn't mean it won't hit again on the evening game. That's the kind of craziness you got to watch. But because of experience, I know when it hits a lot on one, it's probably going to come back in the other. Now, let's go to my nap dream this afternoon. So I have this nap dream. I lay down. It's around 5-ish. I try to take a brief nap every afternoon if I can. They're not very long, though. But I had this strong dream about Jennifer Aniston, and I'm in a pet store with her, and she has a golden retriever, and on the golden retriever's collar are the 3 digits 791. Now, you see, I just told you that 917 came in on Spaceboy's last birthday.
Yeah.
And now, and on my fake play, I looked at my fake play, and I said, wow, I had 791 on my fake play. Isn't that fascinating?
That's wild. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking at this collar on this dog in this dream. I can see it just as clear. And right after I recognized the number, the dream faded, and I woke up and I looked at the clock and I said, wow, there's only 7 minutes that passed. And the Dreamweaver conjured up that dream that quick. So now I'm going to be watching. Now here's the other thing. I dreamed about a local pilot on June 9th. He also has those 3 digits connected to one of his birthdays. You see what I'm saying about how the frequency,
Correct.
You see the frequency starts? That was on June 9th. Now we have Spaceboy today on June 11th, and then I had the afternoon dream. It's almost like the inner guide is saying, hey, watch these 3 numbers, watch these 3 numbers. Now, I'm not 100% going to tell you they'll be Lotto related, because they could be connected to a news story, and those could be the digits that connect to something. But I wrote that dream, and everybody can go on the blog and check it out. I think you can see how disciplined I am with this, and how I make such a concerted effort to make sure I get this information out. And I think now you can understand the through line of all this. Just like in a story, you have to kind of follow the spine of everything.
Right. And there's a pattern.
That's one. Sure. Yes. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. Now this helps me with the other stuff as well. See, this whole thing with the lotto numbers and the computer. Anyway, my goal, my plan with this is I've talked to a couple of different people about developing an app to help lotto, to give, to handicap for lotto players. I haven't found anybody I'm comfortable with, and I'm not sure I have this down the way I want to. But here's what you can say. Morgan Spurlock was on, do you know Morgan Spurlock?
No, I don't know that person.
Okay, he has a show on CNN called Inside Man.
Okay.
He made a claim to fame a long time ago because he ate at McDonald's for 30 days and he did a video on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got red hair and a big mustache. Anyway, he has a show on CNN that's very popular. And I happened to tune into the one that was on gambling. And I said, well, he does good work, so I want to watch this. And he set a budget, and he was going to test all these different theories. And he was in Vegas. And then he started playing the state lotto. And, of course, he had some difficulty with that, as opposed to playing, blackjack and roulette and all of those other games. And I was smiling because I said, well, he needs me. I could show him how to do that. But the the statistics that they brought out of that, I was already sort of aware of. But it's one of the largest industries in the United States is the state lotto. It generates $60 billion a year. $60 billion.
Wow.
Those are a lot of people losing money, right?
Oh, yeah.
So my plan is to figure a way. Of course, I'm the secret sauce with the dreams, but to figure an app or some way to, because here's how I look at it. I wouldn't need to pitch it to Shark Tank because I've already configured in my mind that I know how many people play in the state of Florida alone. I got an idea. I could probably be one of the fastest rising billionaires on the planet with this app. Because, I mean, if it's generating $60 billion a year, you have to figure that if you only sold it, let's just hypothetically say you sold the app for 99 cents or $1. And you had, 2 million people in the state of Florida playing it every day, right? Just as a hypothetical. You don't think, listen, I know gamblers. They're all superstitious. And if once you can prove to them that you have some sort of method that works, it doesn't have to be 100%, because even if it's 50 or 60%, they're going to take a shot at it. Because I watched people buy those little tabloids in the store, those little papers for like $2 and $3, and I've watched those things sell out all the time. So anyway, I don't know if I will do it, but I need to do some more studying, but that's one of my goals with this, because it's like I told Space Boy and Solana, for me to go back into any kind of a business, it's going to have to be, at my stage of life, my last phase of life, it would have to be something big, because I can't afford to do nickel and dime type business anymore. Not in my situation. I would have to make a lot of money, or I just can't make a lot of money. It's one of those situations. I'm sure you can understand what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Well, it sounds like a win-win, if you ask me.
Exactly. That's the only way I want to do it, if it can benefit other people. But in a nutshell, I hope I've explained that well enough. I have some others here. Are you familiar with, I don't know if you're familiar with Japanese movie stars?
Some of them. I
Have
like Japanese martial arts movies. Go ahead.
Did you see a movie called Black Rain?
No, I didn't see that one, I don't think. Who's in it?
With Michael Douglas when he went to Japan.
Oh, I think I did see that. Yeah, no, that was a long time ago. I'm pretty sure I saw it.
It was 1989.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with that now.
Yeah. Well, there's a Japanese actor. He's been in lots of movies, but he's been in a few U.S. movies with some big names. His name is Ken Takakura, and he died in 2014. But I had a strong dream about him the other night. Now, I had no idea I was going to get this many hits when I posted the dream about him, but obviously he is very well known. Because, I posted some celebrities, but this guy, I'm telling you, I cannot believe the number of people that have searched this guy on my blog. So what's going to be very fascinating, if there is a lotto hit with him soon, can you imagine how the people are going to respond? And I imagine a lot of those are from Japan. That have. What's strange is I didn't notice that was the country that kicks on my blog. I haven't noticed a lot of people from Japan, but obviously a lot of people know who this guy is. So it's going to be interesting. But there again, the subconscious conjured this guy up, and I can't figure out how he could make the news other than lotto, because what I've discovered is 99.9% of the time when I dream about dead celebrities or dead people, it is lotto connected, and they usually hit fast.
That's amazing. So you figured out a system nobody's been able to figure out. I find that very complex.
It is. Well, I find what you talk about fascinating. There is no way that I could keep up with the experience that you've had. It is truly, truly fascinating. I listened to you, and I've never listened to you before. I saw your name on another show. I can't remember which show it was, and I was going to tune in that night, and then I got distracted with something. But I'm really glad I listened to what you said tonight, because it was truly fascinating, and you have a lot of passion and heart when you discuss it.
Well, thank you.
But it's above my pay grade. I'm telling you. But it seems very similar to what I'm experiencing in a way, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, there's a parallel. There's no doubt. Yeah. Except I can't win the lotto. No, I should try. But that's fascinating.
Well, what bothered me is when I used to see psychics come on talk shows and people made fun of them. And instead of really looking at other abilities they had, the first thing out of the talk show's host mouth was, "Hey, can you predict lotto numbers?" And I'm sure you've seen those shows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, how degrading, you know, and they make a big joke about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, you know what, I'm going to prove I can do this. And I have proven it time after time after time again. We're not talking a few times. This happens every single day.
Right.
Did you get a chance, as a segue, to look at that video I sent you on 944?
I did. Yeah. That was pretty interesting.
Did you hear the voicemail on that?
I don't know if I heard the voicemail on that. Now, wait a second. I think there was one on the news I was looking at, the one with the interview. Is that the one you're talking about or no?
No, well, this was a YouTube video I made. I sent it to you.
Oh.
I sent it to Space Boy and Solana, and I sent it to Jim Mallard, and nobody watched it before I went on. And the thing about it was that I think Space Boy and Solana might have watched it before I went on Saturday night. I don't think they watched it when I did the pre-interview, but I think they did watch it. But I was hoping they could play it because that was when my girlfriend and I were together, and we had an actual answering machine, although it was voicemail, but you could hear it when it came on in the house.
Mm-hmm. And
I was in another room, and when the phone rang, this was in 2008, when the phone rang, I said, oh, I'm going to listen to this, and it was what caught my attention was that the appointment time was at 9:44. Now, Solaris, who books an appointment at 9:44?
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, oh, this is going to work. I know these numbers are going to hit. I knew it. The minute I heard it. I said, that's a message for me. They came in the next day, and that's what the whole video is about. I videotaped. I have the voice on there. I have all the details. I show the winning ticket. I show every conceivable physical evidence way to show people these crazy things that happen to me just like this.
Right.
Now here's what you're going to find even more fascinating. I started sharing that video last week, last Saturday on Space Boy and Solana's Space Boy Universe show. Last Saturday, it's on the archives, I believe we talked about it. It's show number 36. And then I talked about it on Jim Mallard's show on Tuesday. Those numbers hit. Can you believe that?
I'm just amazed by it. You know, it's that synchronicity, though. You're talking about the wave of synchronicity that keeps happening for you. Now, do you set that intent? Because somehow, some way, you're connecting or interconnecting with something. It's wild.
No, I don't. I don't mess with anything. These things, I don't know why I sense them. I have a good friend. He was my wrestling coach in high school, and he sort of noticed that even when I was in high school, I was a natural athlete. I had never wrestled in my life, and I won top championships. I got a scholarship out of my senior year in school, and I was a natural martial artist. Well, I smiled when I heard you say you were a second-degree black belt.
Yeah, what style?
Well, I didn't have any style.
Oh, okay.
I was I'll tell you why. Because I was such a fan of Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do, I just said, well, I'll do my own style.
Nice.
And and then I got into full contact in the military, and I started fighting Taekwondo black belts and Shorin Ryu. And I was beating these guys, and they were just so frustrated because they said I couldn't telegraph any of my stuff. They couldn't read it.
Nice. Yeah.
And it was like I had a sixth sense to knowing what they would do. But I would never tell anybody because I was real humble about it. They would say, hey, I saw you doing some stuff out there on the mat with your friend. Would you like to spar? And this guy said, well, I'm a black belt. This guy tells me he's a black belt in Taekwondo, and I'm thinking, oh, he's going to kick my butt, But that wasn't the case. But the thing is, it's just something I picked up on, and I loved it, and I was kind of torn between that and bodybuilding. Do you know who Don the Dragon Wilson is?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, he and I were all in school together in college. We wrestled on the same wrestling team.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
And he noticed it in me when he met me, and he encouraged me to keep going. And that is another fascinating synchronicity, Solaris. The apartment complex I lived in Cocoa Beach, where I was going to school, his brother was dating the girl that lived next door to us. Do you think it was destiny that he and I were supposed to meet?
Wow, it's like you've had a charmed life.
Well, in a way, it seems that way. But I've had some setbacks that again, this is why another reason it makes me study this, because as I was telling Spaceboy and Solana, I said, look, I had a trajectory from the mid-'70s to almost the end of the 80s that I could do no wrong. It didn't matter what I did. Everything worked out for me, turned to gold. The girlfriend that I wanted, it would just like it would manifest. I mean, I didn't even I can tell you stories about my romantic life that are so synchronized, it sounds like a movie script, but that's how they worked. I'm talking people that I had met a couple years before I had no interest in, and suddenly I'm in a relationship with them, and I can think back to the minute I saw them, and then through this whole series of synchronicities, here I end up in a relationship with this person. It's been that kind of I don't know if I would call it a roller coaster life, but the reason I'm telling you this story is because my best friend in the world got sick was my dad. And it seemed to coincide with this unraveling in my life. Now, I was in peak condition. You know what it takes to be a bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. And I owned a gym. I looked the part. I was the part. You know, I wasn't just some guy who owned a gym. I was respected because I was a competitor, and it's a very tough sport. I'd say wrestling, martial arts, and bodybuilding are three of the toughest sports I've ever done.
Absolutely.
Because of the mental discipline and people don't realize it's all about conditioning more than anything else. Mm-hmm. You would agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can apply the discipline of a martial artist to anything in life, and you should have success if you can keep that same clarity, you know, that clarity that you have as a martial artist.
I totally agree.
Yeah, that focus. But anyway, so when my dad got sick, I had this real odd change go through me. And then the premonition of him dying occurred. It was a Saturday morning. And the girl I was dating at the time was there with me. And I said, hey, I'm supposed to go out of town. We have a show tonight. And I said, I never miss a show because that's the kind of business person I am. But I said, I have to miss this one. And so my best friend, who was also involved in the show with me, I said, look, he goes, don't worry about it. He said, I know what you're going through. Now, albeit my dad had been sick, but he wasn't. And
Patrick, we're going to head for a break, so I want you to hold that thought. We're going to continue on after the break. Everybody, please stay tuned. You're listening to Ravenstar's Witching Hour at freedomslips.com. My special guest tonight is Patrick Sporer. We'll be right back.